Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week, along with Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elise King, we will be discussing the first 3 episodes from Season 3 of The Bad Batch. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to support Force Ghost Conversations on Patreon. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everybody, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. And boy, is it time to get into our Bad Batch discussions. Yes, it is sad that this final season is now upon us, but we were blessed with 3 wonderful episodes. And of course, Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations will be here hopefully each and every week to break down all of the amazing goodness that is the Bad Batch, as it is her favorite Star Wars content. And just a thrill to have her on the show to share her insights, her opinions, her thoughts on where the series is going and connections to previous, past, and current canon. Just all this great stuff. And I can't wait for you to hear our discussion on the other side of this short, well, probably not short, but this little segment here. But you regular listeners know this segment as Cloud City Gossip. For those who may be joining for the first time, this is where we do a rundown of the news in the Lucasfilm Star Wars galaxy that has taken place over the past week, or if I've missed a week because I had to pre-record an episode, I get to do it all over again with another episode, I'll cover everything in a 2-week span or 3-week span or however many it takes to get to where we're at currently. So, anyways, to start, The Bad Batch is back. If you haven't seen the episodes yet, what are you doing? Go pause this episode now and go watch it on Disney Plus, and then come right back to this podcast because we get full spoiler discussions on the other side of in our main topic of discussion for the episode today. So, yeah, be sure to do that. You've been forewarned at this point. Also, the full season of Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures is now on Disney Plus. It is a wonderful show, age appropriate for all families, and set in the High Republic era, which features a lot of crossover with those stories that we've been talking about here on the podcast. And so if you're a fan of the High Republic and you've been reading the books and keeping up with all the comics and side stories and all that stuff, this is the show for you. Don't sleep on it. I've heard great things about it. I'm slowly making my way through it because I've just got so much to watch right now. But you can rest assured that we will. I have it on my list here. We are going to be doing discussions on Young Jedi Adventures very soon here, so be on the lookout for that. Additionally, this week we got a cover reveal for Temptation of the Force by Tessa Gratton, aka the next adult novel, I should say, in the High Republic saga, which arrives on June 11th. So if you want to see that cover and get a little snippet as to what the story is about, be sure to check out the article that is now on StarWars.com. Additionally, March 14th marks the release date for a very wonderful thing in my life, which is Star Wars Battlefront, the Classic Collection, which will be available for all consoles and PC. You get to revisit both Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, which came out, I believe, in 2004 and 2005, respectively. And there's going to be some new maps and frankly, the best part, multiplayer gameplay for up to 64 people. So I will certainly be one of those 64 people, and I hope that you also are able to join in on some of those great multiplayer action sequences and to relive these wonderful games that were such a pivotal part of my fandom back in the day. Finally, there will be a new one-shot comic in celebration of the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. It was written by Greg Pak and will feature revelatory stories set before, during, and after the movie. So look for that on your comic shelves on May 1st. But I gotta say, when you use the word revelatory, that gets me excited. So I'm going to be definitely checking that story out. And I hope you will too. Maybe we can have a chat about it as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace this year. With that, folks, that's all the news that I had for this week. We'll be back on the other side of this little break here with our Bad Batch Season 3 conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to Force Ghost Conversations. You know what time of the year it is. It's that time where we gather together and watch, but also celebrate the Bad Batch. And you know what? The worst part is, it's the last time we'll be doing this for the first time, as season 3 at this point is the end of the Bad Batch story as we know it. We'll have to find out what happens in a couple weeks from now to see if there's any future stories with the Bad Batch with that potential outlier out there. But for now, we've got 3 great episodes to have a full conversation about. And of course, you know we couldn't do this alone. We could not. We had to bring our resident Bad Batch super fan onto the show. And you all know her affectionately as Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations. Of course, this is Elise King. Elise, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back.
For Bad Batch.
You're bad bitch.
Yeah, I'm not going to try.
You're not even going to try the Maori New Zealand accent.
No, I can never do it.
No. How are you doing? How does it feel to have the Bad Batch back in your life? I see you're wearing your Her Universe Bad Batch sweatshirt on, so clearly this is a big moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, love to see most of the Bad Batch on screen.
Oh, yes. That's right. Well, you technically did get to see all of them on screen.
Did I really want the tech flashback?
It was in the trailer and it was in the previously on.
They just drove the knife.
Just in case you all forgot, here's a slingshot of adrenaline to you.
It was a knife through the ribs. No, I mean, I'd rather have the 3rd season of Bad Batch than not have any season. It's just a little bittersweet because I'm still sad.
You're still sad. You still haven't recovered from the loss of Tech.
How do you recover?
How do you recover? Is he gone? We'll have to find out. I didn't see a body.
Oh, you're still on that
There's
train?
A lot of speculation out there in the fandom.
Oh, I'm just gonna not pin my hopes and dreams.
I wouldn't either. But
okay. Well, my
Ventress is somehow in this show.
My heart's broken, and I'm just not gonna build it on false hope. So I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah. I got a wild theory, so let's get back to that in a while. Remember the whole Tech thing.
Okay, well, I won't forget.
Okay, well, how could we? Bad Batch is back. 3 episodes. We got 15 this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel to have a 3-chunk episode at once? Do you feel like this is great? Or are you like, wow, that's 2 more weeks I could have had Bad Batch?
No, because I feel like I think they've done a great job with Bad Batch in terms of pacing episodes. It's like Clone Wars. They're telling mini stories in chunks.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for this type of format. And it was nice because it gave us the time to really sit with Omega and Crosshair and sit with Hunter and Wrecker without having to compromise on story and trying to cram it in. So we can talk more on it, but I'm excited where those stories left off, because I was a little afraid we were just gonna be sitting in that facility with Omega for a while. Mm-hmm. Should have known.
Well, it let it breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
And
let the reality of their reality sink in.
We got to see not necessarily it would have felt wrong to me if after the events of the last season that they went straight into the first episode was a new adventure. I remember, I think season 2 episode was them fending off those crabs from they were stealing something.
Yeah.
Right? The tonally that just wouldn't work going off of what they did to conclude the season and that loss of Tech, to then be Hunter and Wrecker going on an adventure and having this joyous, bombastic time. It just, the way that they introduced the season was a good tone-wise for me. And
yeah, I think people would have been like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
No, they started it how they did in the 2nd season because the gang was together. They felt whole. They felt relatively safe.
Yeah. It was a joyous time for them.
Yeah, or just a non-death following you everywhere time.
Which I think is pretty joyous.
Yeah.
If that is your other.
If that's the bar, yep, you're right. It was a joyous time.
And I want to get your thoughts on just the tone of these 3 episodes, because I think as we kind of see in animation, oftentimes they will start off, first and foremost, these are like kid-friendly shows to a large degree, and they start off kind of, they age it with the audience, right? So now we're at a very serious, these 3 episodes were very serious, right? Like they were, I feel like, at a tone where they weren't just cracking jokes left and right. Of course, there was still some humor in these 3 episodes, but they really felt the gravity of the situation, right? Omega felt her confinement. I mean, the whole episode's called Confined. Crosshair was at his most defeated, I think, we've ever seen him at this point. The Empire seems to be at the forefront of this great scientific experiment that has ramifications for the large Star Wars story. Hunter and Wrecker are like, what are we doing? We're at a loss here. We're trying to figure out how to find Omega, and we're grasping for crumbs to find a way to possibly get to her. Like the weight of the situation, I thought, was laid out well in these 3 episodes, and I think tonally it matched it. How did that come across for you?
Well, you just explained
or did I just explain it all?
You just explained it all.
Wow. Good job, host.
I agree with you. I think I've always appreciated with the storytellers of the Bad Batch is they let the story come first, rather than these, like, to me, they let the story come first instead of saying like, this is a kid show, we have to stick with these situations. No, the story went where the story went, and they let the tone match that. I thought it was really interesting, like especially when the Emperor was in episode 3 and they're talking about the Necromancer. Like the tone also felt very similar to those scenes in, it wasn't Ahsoka, the Mandalorian, season 3, like where they having these conversations,
the Shadow Empire conversation.
Like that felt very similar in tone for me, which I think just they're doing their job in establishing like the enemy.
Right.
Like, that is a very like strong tone that Star Wars keeps throughout the entire storyline. So yeah, I mean, they did what they had to do. They didn't like say, oh, Omega's a kid. No, she's a kid in an adult situation,
dealing with really hard stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with Omega. And obviously this first episode of this season is very much Omega centered. Obviously she's struggling with the loss of tech and then now being in this new situation, but how did you feel like Omega was handled in this first episode here? I don't want to pose my thought on yet, so I'll let you go first here. How was your reaction to Omega handling this situation?
Yeah, it was, I think, appropriate. Appropriate's not a good word. I don't think Omega has handled Tex. I don't think she's struggling with it. She's in a survival. I mean, I think she's sad. She's missing her family. We didn't see her like actively struggle with Tex death. I know she's feeling it, but she is in a do or die situation. She's in a survival mode, and in that mode, you're not processing. You're not grieving. You're trying to survive. I very much got a Hunter vibe from her. I think they made it clear in the second season that they're similar. She's great at strategy. She can kind of like read a situation and find the right solution pretty quickly. And I think that's what she was doing here, like keeping her eyes out, like open, ear to the ground, stuff like that. And so to me, I saw Hunter. I saw Hunter's influence on her. And I was impressed that she could handle the stress of being in that situation as well as she did, considering her age. It definitely shows like growing up on Camino helped her with that. And also nice to see that she still maintained like her Omega-ness by like befriending that creature that like the Hunters. I don't know what they're called.
Well, it's called Tantus hounds.
The hounds. And
I don't know if they really mentioned what their species are actually.
Okay. Those hounds. And then reaching out to Crosshair again and again and again. Like that's very Omega. So it was admirable she could keep that in such a dark time. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say, frankly, was that whole last bit there. She didn't lose herself, which would be understandable if she became a shell of herself in this confinement situation, everything stripped away from you. Basically, you're a pawn existing so that another pawn is forced to do the work.
Yeah. I think that stays in who she is because she has absolute faith.
Mhm.
Her family is looking for her.
Yeah.
Her brothers are coming.
Yeah.
She's going to make it as easy as possible for them to find her, but I think she's never lost that faith.
Well, I think, yeah, she's fully believing that they're out there, but I think she also never gave up hope that she couldn't find her own way out, too.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that shows her learning from Hunter, Tech, Wrecker, Echo, that she has the ability, like she's over the 2 seasons, we've seen her pick up on the traits, as you noticed, and she was like, I haven't found it yet, but I will find a way out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she never lost faith in herself.
Yeah, she's like, I'll find a way out, and then we'll get back to we're not fully reliant on them coming and rescuing us. She's often like how people like to think of like when Leia's in the cell block in the Death Star, right? People are like, oh, Luke Skywalker comes in and rescues her, and a lot of people are like, no, Leia's probably in there thinking of how she can get out herself without having to rely. She's not expecting anybody to walk in through that door. She only has herself to rely on.
That.
Yeah, so I think that's a nice kind of Star Wars poetry. In a way.
That's a good way of seeing it.
And the adverse of that, though, is Crosshair has almost lost his entire self. And how did you feel about seeing almost a dog beaten down?
I don't think almost. I think it was
yeah, he was entirely beaten down. That's for sure.
I think I remember in one episode them saying that like Crosshair was showing like resistance to reprogramming or retraining.
Yeah, they said that in one of these 3 episodes.
So it shows that like he's still who he is, but I kind of think he believes he deserves to be where he is. I think he doesn't like himself right now. And it's not just like this place beat him down, but he truly believes he was where he should be. Yeah. And like Omega was kind of carrying that faith in him for him.
Yeah, he's carrying for both of them.
Yeah. But it was so as someone who like never connected to Crosshair, like I wasn't like he's the coolest and whatever. I felt for him. They do a good job of like really making you feel for him, even if he's not your favorite.
Yeah. And especially in the 3rd episode of this, where you start to see him like shake, almost like a Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan. Not only is he a fragment mentally of his former self, but that's in some way it's affecting his natural ability or his enhanced ability to be a sharpshooter.
Yeah, like if he doesn't have that, then who is he?
Yeah, who is
Crosshair? Does he even have?
Yeah, and then a lot of the story is about learning what are we beyond what our original
I hope so.
story is, and hopefully we get to see him continue.
I was really happy to see their like escape situation where they did like Plan 72, where they overtake the Empire hangar.
Yeah, they overtake the ship.
Yeah,
while they're being distracted.
Yeah, and that was fun to see them working together because like she is him at a younger age in terms of like learning all of the plays and learning how to react instinctively and off the cuff and stuff like that. So I thought that was fun. It was nice to see him like back as working in a team. But yeah, it was sad for a while. Yeah,
it's like the what could have been, right? Seeing her and him interact in this way and being on a mission together.
Yeah.
What was taken away from us as fans because of Order 66 and the chip working, and then Crosshair's choice afterwards.
Yeah, but it is nice that like they're gonna go on a mini adventure together. Omega had all her moments with the other Bad Batch characters in season 2, and now she's getting her season 3. And I think it's always nice when you see characters like come together in darkness because it makes it easier to step out of it together. Right.
We were more so introduced in this first episode, I will say, to Omega's sister, Emery Carr. It was one of the doctors or
Boring.
people were boring. You thought she was boring?
First, like being right about who she was and feeling so vindicated, I was just like, oh, she's so boring. She's exactly who she should be as a character. It's not a slight on the show. I was just like, I think you're boring.
I think, yeah, the reveal almost got us more excited than the actual actions of the character thus far. Like, oh, they cloned girls. There are girl clones too. This is an older Omega, basically. Like, this is what she's gonna look like when she's older.
Yeah, I guess I was like, oh, this will be interesting because if she's like Omega, like they're quote unquote defective. They had something in them that's special, that's not so beholden to orders. And she's just like so either brainwashed or conditioned. Obviously, it's not her fault, but I was just like, oh, this character is, I don't know what it, in my brain, I was just like, I thought it would be more. I don't know why.
Yeah, you were just kind of your expectation was like,
I think I was so high from being right that I always had to come down.
Well, I think it was honestly a big reveal because canon-wise, we'd never known that.
Yeah,
there were other clones. I mean, Omega was a big reveal, and that has seemed to pay off thus far. That her existence is something, but then the fact that they utilized that genocode, I thought that would have a bit more ramification. So far, yet to be seen.
Yeah, maybe like I'm curious of like if Omega's blood works, why doesn't her blood work?
That's a great question. Well, maybe it's because they need the original replicate, like
Omega's actually older than this.
Maybe
woman?
them having probably, yeah,
from the aging process.
Yeah, them having the enhanced aging is probably why they can't. I'm just speculating here as to why the M count, the Midi-Cholorian count, can't transfer
like
over.
Omega was,
but she's a pure copy template.
Yeah, and then this woman was copied. Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Otherwise, or like they took Omega and then like readjusted to be less, I guess. I'm curious why Lamassu?
Lamassu was the like the prime minister of Camino that they kill. Yeah.
Like Namaste.
Like Namaste, but Nalase.
Nalase.
Yeah.
Like Nala from Lion. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I wonder why she always knew Omega would be like the key.
It's just
like, was she created to be the key? That's interesting.
Here's the baffling. Well, obviously they had no idea. I don't think they had any implication as to what this would be.
I mean, who knows what?
But who knows? Frankly,
the Kaminoans.
I guess my thing is like my expectation. This is maybe where my I it's wild to me that the only reason they captured Omega was to get Nalase to work for them, rather than, I thought in my head they already knew her importance and that's why they needed her. But it's wild to me that they didn't recognize. I mean, it's truly an Empire thing that they would see, they would have what was in front of them and then miss it. Like, again, a Leia being trapped right there, right? A pure Force sensitive daughter of Anakin Skywalker right there.
Yep.
And couldn't even sniff it. Vader's 2 feet away from her and can't even recognize his own flesh and blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. It's such an Empire thing. And it made me laugh because I was like, if you were taking this girl's blood every day
and no one is noticing that it's not being recognized, it's not getting in the record.
It's just like showing bureaucracy still hinges on people.
Yeah.
And processy will always like disguise people's treachery,
right,
even if it's for good. And I was just saying, I was like, what? Just, oh my gosh, like what an Empire thing. Because you would think they would sit there and be like, why is she so, like, why is Nalase so connected to Omega?
Yeah, why is she attached to?
And they're probably just like, oh, what a weakness. It's because she's a little girl and like she just got
connected. Grew up together, yeah.
And some of it's love. But I think also some of it's you fools.
It's love, and it's
important.
It's their scientific achievements.
Yeah.
This whole planet that prided themselves on cloning techniques
I guess I'm selling Nala stay short. I think she legitimately loves Omega, but to just think like why would these people who pride themselves on scientific achievement not get rid of a girl or like just keep a girl as a lab tech?
Yeah, and spend so much time trying to keep her and like rein her in.
Yeah, like think through it, man. But I mean, to our benefit, they didn't, because they're greedy and bloated and full of themselves and too busy to think through.
Yeah, it's so funny that I saw a tweet in the last day here, and I didn't share it because I wanted to wait till this podcast moment to share it with you because I thought it was super funny. Was that someone made I don't know exactly who, so I can't attribute the person that tweeted this, but they're like, it's so funny that the key to completing Project Necromancer was thwarted by Nala Say's quiet quitting. All it took was her quiet quitting to stop the Empire from achieving their backup plan in case the Emperor dies.
Oh my gosh! Workers unite! We all quiet quit.
Yeah, you never underestimate the impact that you can have through quiet quitting.
Yeah, that's
well. Also, another quiet quitter in a way is Galen Erso by putting the conveniently putting in the way for the Death Star to be destroyed in the system.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Empire has been constantly thwarted by people quiet quitting.
And then the Republic like loses itself and loses the war eventually because of like their own bureaucracy,
ambitions and overachievers and bureaucracy.
Yeah. Anarchy. We must become anarchists. That's what I'm getting here.
Before we get to the Necromancer of it all, I do want to talk about that second episode for a little bit here, where we're more focused on Hunter and Wrecker, who we don't really see in the first episode at all.
Yeah.
And it's called Paths Unknown, and it involves them checking out this lead, basically.
Peter Pan and the Lost Boys.
Basically, yeah. Where they find Dr. Hemlock's old working facility before he got promoted to now Mount Tantus and overtook Rampart's projects out there. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts off the cuff on that episode particularly?
Just made me sad.
Yeah.
Just made me sad to see two of them.
It struck me when you said that, like, oh, it's just two of them. Oh yeah, I didn't think that. I was expecting someone else to be like at least three of them, but no, it is just a duo.
It's just sad. I mean, yeah, I was just like, man, for a group of men that always had each other, only had each other, mm-hmm. because the clones thought they were weird, then they were on the run. And they're just, one's in prison, one left voluntarily and became an enemy, one died, and one left to because he needed to feel like he had to do something bigger. It's just sad. Mm-hmm. I think that made me more sad than even Crosshair, just because, I was glad they had each other. I liked the episode with the kids. I thought that was cute. I will say I want to see Hunter unleashed. Mm-hmm. He's always been so tightly controlled.
He's pulled back. Yeah, you would think that the hunt for Omega would put him.
And I think it has. We kind of got a glimpse of that in the first part of the episode with I got that feeling from him when he's talking to the syndicate or whatever, but I think with kids you're not going to be like that. But I was like, man, if any time is for Hunter to just lose it and go full stealth mode, it would be now. So
yeah, a couple wild things in this episode. So first, there's a group of regs, kid cadets basically, that are now older.
Yeah,
and one of them is voiced by Daniel Logan, who played young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones. Yep. So he's back in the Star Wars fold a little bit.
That's cool.
We saw him at Celebration. He told some funny stories about his experience. And the other two were voiced by. Unfortunately, I don't know the actor's name off the top of my head, and I don't want to clicky-clack around on the computer over here to find it out. But it's the kid that played basically the lead in Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, we loved him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also in Deadpool 2, and I believe Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay. Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered his name too.
A fun little detail there. We got some new faces in the Star Wars fold, yet a returning face is back in it again.
They made me sad too.
And the Lost Boys kind of vibe. They're surviving in this hellish landscape, but also they were born. Talk about being born for a purpose and then never being able to do that purpose.
Well, even then, it just like is another reminder of the implications of the end of Attack of the Clones for the clone. Like, it wasn't just like adult soldiers who got decommissioned. It's children.
The pipeline that they had of future soldiers.
Yeah. Like, all those test tube babies, like done. All these kids who were in training, like killed.
Mm-hmm. It's all pawns.
Like they're all cannon fodder at some level, and it's just so sad. And it just added another level of sadness. Man, I was sad.
Yeah.
It was fun to see Wrecker engaging with them, though. I thought that was cool, though.
And it was nice to see them actually do a mission for once, like piloting the ship. And they're like, oh, I did so many simulations on this. Like they actually did their programming.
They felt useful.
They felt fulfilled in a way that they never had because they actually did what they were intended to do.
And to make myself think more positively, I'll say to be dropped off on that beautiful island.
Yeah, Pabu, it's not a bad existence after what they just went through.
And that's better than like just fighting your whole life. Mm-hmm. They actually get to have like a full world. It just made me sad for like the whole clone ecosystem.
Let's hope the Empire just doesn't come to
if
Pabu.
Pabu comes and destroys Pabu, like I'm over it. I will need a break from Star Wars.
I will take a break.
It's a beautiful island. They are protecting children in Lost.
Until there's another tsunami and it's not even the Empire and it's just.
I refuse to believe it.
It's just
they
a disaster.
System, it's fine.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
They
learned their lesson from last time.
Secret corner of the galaxy.
Yeah. Until Sid rats him out or something like that.
Okay, you're ruining.
I'm ruining it. I know.
Ruining every situation I'm trying to think of.
Yeah. Well, it's Star Wars.
Fair enough.
They don't call it war for nothing in the title. The other cool thing about this episode, I thought, was how just the pulpy nature of that like vine creature.
You really liked the like alien aspect of.
Yeah, it had that alien kind of that whatever sea monster is in the Fellowship of the Ring too, with the tentacles thing. It reminded me
the Kraken.
If you would have gotten to that part of the video game of the Two Towers, you would have cut off the limbs.
I would have never made it. So.
That's an internal joke for us here in this household for the listeners at home.
I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad.
Elise has told me that she never got past the opening sequence of the attack of the Two Towers video game. Which, one day maybe you'll get through it.
No, I won't. I've tried it for years. That's not gonna happen.
You can restart again.
Okay.
But it's just nice to, again, there was some humor infused in that section there. Wrecker was almost eaten like 4 times. That man his armor I saw in this sequence, in this episode, I should say more scars and scratches on it.
Yeah, they were rough.
They haven't cleaned their armor in quite some time, or at least gotten an upgrade, which showcases the time that has actually passed since Omega has been captured.
And how hard they've been, like, I bet they've just done mission after mission after mission to try and get the information.
Yeah, to get that information. Yeah, right. Do you think, like, they were at Mount Tantus when they got Gregor out. And I think, was it season 2? Season 2, I believe.
Is that the same place?
That's the same place where Omega's currently at. Do you think it's surprising that they didn't think to go back there?
I didn't even remember that connection. But honestly, there's so much space. And there's
they're
so
like,
much
how could
Empire.
lightning strike twice? That's probably...
It's just... And it's a very secret base. I think it's like asking them to remember a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only thing I could think of where I was like, I know I probably would have retraced my steps if I could. How many secret Empire bases are there? Probably 1 billion. But I don't know, probably would have. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I probably would have done what they're doing, try to follow the leads that you can, like the actual tangible things, rather than following what your experience was and all that.
It's an interesting point. Like, yeah, I didn't even remember that they were the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little interesting then that they would be like, we have to keep this base secret if it's been exposed.
Well, I think Rampart was in charge of it at that time, and now that he's gone.
Yeah, but the emperor was like, we must keep this base secret. And you're like,
I don't think Rampart had it in his report. Right? It's one of those deals where
one of those
you don't want to look bad on your record when you're trying to get promoted. I mean, you saw Hemlock at the end being like, and when I get promoted to chief absolute scientist, whatever you want to call it, of the imperial regime, then I'll be able to finally get to Project Necromancer and complete it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Omega and Crosshair are off now, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a good callback. I totally forgot.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's irrelevant now, but that was kind of a thought going through my head as they were making their way around.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Around, and got to see that whole syndicate at the beginning of that episode too, calling back to the earlier season when
I liked that.
They took over.
I love the crime part of the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
It gets sprinkled here and there, right? You see it a bit in Solo, you get a lot of it in Clone Wars, and now this way. It's good. I'm waiting to see like a Maul appearance one of these days. Like, where's Crimson Dawn? I need to hear the words Crimson Dawn out there.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
I feel like they're keeping it in their back pocket.
I need Maul, a young Kira.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I don't know if Bad Batch is the place for it.
Bad Batch is the place for everything.
I feel like Boba Fett would be more of the place for it.
That'd be great. Well, you heard it here first, guys. I'm going to do the second season of Book of Boba Fett. Maybe we can get more Kira content.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so let's get over to Necromancer and just that whole third episode, Shadow of Tantus now.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit, Omega and Crosshair escape, and they utilize Plan 72 in order to escape. And then finally, Emery finds out that she's able to process the Omega's blood sample.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, they're able to see that it's a direct transmission of M count using her blood. M count being Midi-Cholorians.
Why do you love saying that word so much?
As a fan of the prequels and someone that adamantly defended them, and the person that is like, I understand what they're doing with Midi-Cholorians. I've just seen Star Wars storytelling since 2010 adamantly take steps to not say the word Midi-Chlorians.
Wait, why is it like a big deal?
Because because that was like how that's how the Jedi Council determined if you had like enough Midi-Chlorians to utilize the Force.
No, I know that. But
why is it important that they say the word?
You said like it was controversial.
Oh yeah, because people didn't like that. They didn't like the concept of Midi-Chlorians. They didn't like the Force being explained to them. So when like the Phantom Menace came out, that was some of the biggest, among many things that people didn't like about that movie at the time. That was one of the bigger things, was that they didn't want the mystery of the Force explained, that you could have an X amount of count, and that means now you can utilize the Force and stuff like that.
Oh man, people, if you all still have that opinion, I have to say you should read the High Republic books. They don't talk about Midi-Chlorians, but they do talk about how the Jedi become a bureaucracy.
Yes, it's all there.
Cataloging everything, and it's just like you see it happening.
Yeah, the Jedi are a bureaucracy.
Phantom Menace, like it's a giant bureaucracy.
I hate to break it to you.
Government. They're going to definitely have someone counting to like quantify the Force.
And look, they're going to have to, because they can't take in every kid across the known galaxy. There needs to be a cutoff.
I mean, I think it's an interesting point of like, especially now, even with Ahsoka and Sabine, of like, I bet there are a lot of Force sensitive people. It's just to what degree.
Yeah. And Ahsoka said no natural talent plays a factor. That's why Sabine struggles, because she probably has the lowest Midi-Chlorian count ever.
Yeah.
But everyone has Midi-Chlorians. It's just how many make it easier to access the Force. Yeah. It's like Qui-Gon explains it. It's a symbiotic relationship between the Midi-Chlorians and the Force. Like, it's So it's all amazing theoretical stuff that George Lucas was playing with, and then just people just ban outright like, I don't like that. I don't like being explained to.
Well, if you don't like that, then you don't like Necromancer, I guess.
Yeah. So and just basically that's my thing is that they haven't said the word since like season 3 or something like that of the Clone Wars, and I'm just like, just say it, you cowards, say it, have the guts to say it.
Wow, I didn't realize this was such a thing. I mean, for someone who had no idea that controversy existed, I saw it as like, who day in and day out in the office wants to say Midi-Cholorian?
This guy.
No, it would always be shortened to M count.
Oh, I mean, that's a smart.
We talk in acronym.
It is government.
I work with the government. We only talk
everything is acronyms. Everything is an alphabet soup of acronyms.
I saw it as like, yeah, at work you're gonna shorten that word. So it's a long word to say.
Okay, that is a very. I'm glad that you mentioned that because that does make a ton of sense. I thought it was a cop out to
maybe
please people that they didn't say the word yet everyone knew what they were saying without actually saying it.
If that's the case, I would tell Lucasfilm that people are going to be angry over whatever.
Because then they started saying things like, "Oh, they're force sensitive," rather than saying like, "Oh, they have a midi-chlorian count." That's high. Like they just,
tomato.
It's like, because they're like, they don't say the word midi-chlorian in the original trilogy, so it's not valid. It's not a thing.
Okay.
Oh my God, Obi-Wan didn't say a lot of stuff to Luke.
The world between worlds didn't exist in the original.
Like there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot that doesn't exist. Anywho, I love
aside over.
I love that this show. Not that anyone needs a reason to watch it beyond that. It's just great, awesome, and good character development of the clones and a continuation of a lot of Clone Wars stories.
Do you feel it's validated because of a bigger connection?
I don't think that, but I think a lot of people need a larger connection in order for them to have that. Why should I watch this? And now they have that. They're like, okay, it'll explain episode 9.
It's convincing them to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is sad that they needed that.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that they're willing to do that in this show. Like they believe in it enough that it has the foundation that it can handle such a big plot point and a reveal for the Star Wars story in this, that it makes it essential.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I find this storyline kind of boring. Like I like seeing the Emperor on screen.
Interesting. Okay.
He's always so fun to watch.
Deliciously evil.
Yeah, as you would say, deliciously evil. I think that's fun. So if there's a reason for that, cool. I guess I was more interested in like the Necromancer stuff from Mandalorian because I was more interested in like the shadow government and like the political machinations.
Tomato.
Okay. The political maneuvering behind the scenes and like where all these traitors were, how they were communicating, and like they were talking about Necromancer, but I thought like that whole system was more interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, how can the New Republic let this slide?
Yeah, that was more interesting to me than like Palpatine. I guess because like we know where it ends. It ends with episode 9. But all this to say, I still want to know what's in that tank. They didn't show what was in the tank in the episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably a failed Palpatine clone. It could be Snoke.
I want to see it. I want to see it.
It could be Snoke. It could be Rey's dad.
Yeah. Ooh.
It could be Dathan. Like they're going to do a ton of.
That makes that more interesting to me.
All of them are failed Palpatine experiments.
Yeah.
It's just.
It'd be interesting to now. That would be interesting. Like his son's origin, son, quote unquote, his Snoke's origin. That's interesting to me. Palpatine trying to keep himself alive and like it working. That's not interesting. I don't know why it's not interesting to me. I guess because like every leader in every book I've ever read that's evil always tries to keep himself alive.
They're afraid of losing their power, which is dying.
Yeah, so I mean, okay, that makes it more interesting now if it's like, oh, we would get to see the failed experiments and like how they impact
the struggle, because obviously it's not great. Like Dathan doesn't have the Force. Snoke doesn't look a whole lot like Palpatine at all.
It makes Rey more interesting now that I think about it. Okay, I'm a little more interested now.
See, it's really it's doing a great job of connecting these larger
Well, it's
stories.
helping me see the implications.
Yeah.
I guess I was just like, well, we know it succeeds, so like, why is that interesting? But the how is cool. Okay.
Well,
I've changed my mind.
and it's not going to succeed too because they're still working on it.
Well, I mean, it's enough to like keep him alive or some version of him.
Somehow, some unnatural. Like this is the unnatural thing. Is that like that's the whole point. It's like, yeah, that's why
I love good storytelling where they foreshadow
him
at the very beginning.
Prolonging life. Unnatural. It's so unnatural. Like until he steals the life force from Rey and Ben, that he's gangly and hanging up against like this crane basically to be pumped with all these fluids to keep alive.
You know what I think of that sometimes, and it to like make him less scary.
What's that?
I think of him like being hung on a hanger, and he's like kind of just kicking his feet.
Yeah. He's just like a hook on the back of his shirt, and he's just, hey, you come back here, kids.
Like some Charlie Chaplin like comedy.
Oh yeah. It's like some Three Stooges bit.
Yeah, I just
come over here, I'll get you.
If you take away the horror of it, it's kind of hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay, it's more interesting now when I think about that. I'd like to see the failed experiment.
And obviously the Emperor is so like, you have all the resources at your disposal to make this possible.
And Hemlock's voice, I wish he wasn't evil, but it's so nice.
But he's very evil. He's also super evil.
I would call him deliciously
He is
evil.
also deliciously evil, but there's when Palpatine's on screen, and especially when it's Ian McDiarmid voicing him again, there's just something about that voice, that figure just walking around, and you're like, all right, this is serious. Get serious.
Just say, that's excellent storytelling and like great character development, that a character, no matter if in such an evil character where like presence is important, to have that come across on screen via animation is so good.
Yeah. So like this, and then in season 2 when he comes out at the Senate building, and he's like, we must remove all the clones, like, right?
Yeah.
You feel that, like, that when him just rising up from the bowels of the Senate.
Yeah.
Or even when he, in that first episode of Bad Batch, when they're showing the speech he makes in Revenge of the Sith, is like, we're the first galactic empire. Yeah. Like, you feel that too.
It's so good.
That presence is just incredible.
That's incredible. So good.
Yeah. So Necromancer.
So you're super excited.
I'm very excited. I was calling this, remember?
When
we were talking about season 2, I was like, I think this is going to have some wider implications here. And now that we're actually seeing the fruits of it come to pass, I think it's great. And I hope it makes people... We have a very high opinion in this household of episode 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
And to a large degree, a lot of people out there have varied opinions on those films, whether they like a few of them or they really hate one of them. I hope it allows people to rewatch those with a different lens that allows them to say, okay, I like this a bit more now. I see where they were going. The seeds were there always for this.
I think we have enough Star Wars storytelling now to just understand that they leave holes for a reason. Mm-hmm. Not to say every story is perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could be improved. That's not true. We're human.
Look at the prequels. They had a whole 7-series show to help explain a lot of stuff.
But I think we've learned, like, Star Wars does tip of the iceberg storytelling, and they go back and fill in the gaps using various mediums.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not only to like help fill in the gaps in your brain, but also to like add depth and complexity to stories. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in a 2-hour film.
Yeah,
you have to do that over various shows. So for me, I'm getting enough Star Wars content I'm very happy with, that I'm just going to have faith that if I don't get all the answers I want now, it's not like they don't have brilliant people. It's not like you're going to have 40 years
of the future of more ways to explain it.
It's a great implication for the future of like just how much more storytelling is there to go. A lot. And it's given creators like Filoni a chance to blossom. And like we wouldn't have that if you were like, we have to do X type of storytelling. So yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy that we get characters to love and have great storytelling that not only is good for that show, but also like makes other things rewatchable in a new way, new experience.
Right. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I will also, just for the, as a recommendation to the listeners at home, if you haven't, maybe this is your push to investigate into that story as well, is the book Shadows of the Sith by Adam Christopher, which I would say is almost essential Star Wars reading at this point. He describes it as episode 6.5, which is a story that takes place between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which showcases Luke and Lando basically running into Rey's parents and helping stash them away on Jakku.
Really?
Yeah. And talking about and Ochi of Bastoon, the guy that's trying to hunt them down that eventually kills them, right? Like having all the stuff with Luke and all. Fascinating, really fascinating stuff. And you find out with like you don't find out about the Emperor.
Is there an audiobook?
Oh yeah. It's definitely, and the audiobook is really good too. That's how I listen to it. It's like 40 hours long. It's really great. And
nice.
It's, again, I keep saying the word delicious, evil. It's so deliciously good of a story, right? Like you want to learn about these details and these finer bits, and that helps to really talk about Palpatine and the cloning and all that whole process. Rey's parents, how like just
it is
everything in the sequel trilogy gets explained a bit more in detail of the thought processes and reasonings behind things.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is cool though it is puzzling to me that they're starting this now right after episode 3 basically, or a couple years after, and they're still having conversations like into the New Republic. Like this is a theme throughout, and like a storyline that's still playing out and things like that. So I mean, super.
Yeah. Well,
it's super rich. There's just a lot of stuff you can do with it.
And it makes sense too, right? Like the Empire just starts. I'm not losing my power. I need to, I need to find a way to secure this Empire as soon as I can.
He was always thinking 10 steps ahead.
I need 50,000 clones of me to live forever. Yep. I am not losing this power whatsoever. Nothing is going to stop me.
Which makes sense because he's like, I don't want an apprentice. Apprentices kill the masters eventually.
I want loyal. Well, and he got Vader. And
you get until he didn't.
You get rid of. Well, he didn't think that Luke,
the apprentice did kill the master.
He didn't think that Luke and Leia were things, and like that's the real fault of them is not recognizing the things that were under. Again, we talked about this before. The Empire not recognizing what's underneath their noses. But when you're a big bureaucracy like that, it is those little details that slip through. It's why Obi-Wan's able to walk out of the Inquisitor's base basically with a trench coat over Leia. And no one notices a thing. But it's awesome that that they're making things that when you think about it and you think through history and all that stuff, the storytelling that they're doing just makes sense. It just makes sense, and it lines up thematically with what Lucas was saying from the beginning, where it's like bad people are evil and they will do things to retain their power and evil.
and if you're like looking at like myth and the creation of myth and lore and storytelling, like that's the archetype.
Yeah, it's central to all that. There's a lot of deliciously evil people out there throughout storytelling and history. Voldemort being another example, right? That unnatural lifelong process. And
fear of death.
Fear of death is another thing. Yeah. Fear is the path to the dark side. You're fearing a lot of stuff.
Do you ever think we'll get a Palpatine origin story?
Well, honestly, at this point, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Well, the logistical thing of they're going to need content eventually.
Yeah.
For Star Wars. I think the Acolyte is going to be where the seeds are laid for Palpatine.
Oh.
It's in the waning days of the High Republic. It's correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but I believe it's set 100 years before the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So Palpatine's master, Darth Plagueis, could easily be in that show.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And that's the point of the show, is to see how we get the Phantom Menace, how the Sith reemerge, how they get to that point, and eventually at some point a younger Palpatine could pop into the show,
I
or
don't-
at least we see his master Plagueis, and we see the ideology that eventually is transmitted to Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah, I would love to see a Palpatine origin story, just because Tales of the Jedi with Dooku.
Oh, great point.
Was so interesting, and made Dooku like, it's so complex how someone usually falls to the dark side. Anakin's story is wildly complex. Dooku's is complex, like simple but also complex at the same time. It's understandable how they get there, which is hard. And so I'd love to see, like, was Palpatine just always pure evil incarnate? You know, I think most people like to think it's all about choice. It's not like you're born evil, but there are also people in the world that would convince you otherwise. So
hey, maybe he totally was.
So if he was just born evil, okay, but like, how did he like get his the powers and connect with Darth Plagueis? Like, was there a seduction there? Did they just join up and he always knew he wanted to kill him? Like, those are questions that are interesting to me. Although I don't envy the actor who has to step into Ian McDermott's shoes as a younger person to play him, because he is so excellent.
Yeah, I really don't envy that. And it had to be an A-lister, because they're not just going to give it to somebody to carry a show and to carry a name and title like that. I wish, in my opinion, that if they were to cast a young Ian McDermott, that they would do the same thing that they did to cast Ian McDermott and to look to British stage for an actor with like that gravitas to do 3-hour performances 6 nights a week.
I think would be the right one.
No, I don't think they do that.
At that point, but I don't know. I think with characters that are that important, you just have to wait till you find the right character, like the right actor. Because if it's just to have the name and he's not good,
they're not going to settle until they find a great one. But I think they need to have someone to like, oh, someone I know is in this. I'm going to watch the casual viewer. I think they'll need a bit more of a pull for that.
Again, makes me excited.
But again, a plug for The Acolyte, which I hear is coming out this summer.
No way, really?
Yeah. Oh. This is about time. We could see a young or not young, but an old Vernestra Rowe in that show. Maybe a Buryaga?
Maybe. We don't know.
Well. Is he alive? Is he?
I haven't read all the books. Don't say anything.
We'll see. You'll see. You got a whole stack of High Republics in there. And maybe a Shadow of the Sith now. You've you've been intrigued as to the Necromancer. Yeah. I have 2 questions here, and one goes back to that tech thing I was mentioning here at the earlier. I got a theory. Walk with me on this one here.
All right.
Again, we didn't see a body.
Okay.
They did mention, I can't remember if it was episode 3 or episode 1. It was somewhere in the Tanta sequence where they were like, we have successfully tried to transmit an M count, but it hasn't been we tried and it was a low count in this one. Do you think they're experimenting on tech? Like that was the person they were referring to? Yeah, like they're just testing on him because maybe they're like, let's take it out on this Bad Batch guy that's been a thorn in our side for a while. Let's use him as a guinea pig.
It's interesting you say that, because the only way I could see Tech being alive. Did Saul Guerrero leave the planet?
Oh yeah, I mean he has to canonically.
Because I was like, did he take Tech with him? Like if he saw him fall or something? But I think he was already gone.
I'm sure he was preoccupied and left, and he wasn't going back for a fallen guy.
Yeah, I guess the only way I could
unless he fell right at his feet.
Yeah, but the only way I could see him being alive is is if he somehow didn't get absolutely crushed like a water.
Yeah, there's barely any of him. Like he was just one breath away.
Yeah,
and they salvaged him.
The Empire came and saved him because they wanted to.
He's our property. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of that theory, it's the most logical to me and the most feasible. It'd make me want to punch all of them in the throat.
Yeah, how dare you?
Oh, and for Omega and Crosshair to learn that Tech was there. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, we left him behind.
At that point, I'm like, do I wish that on Tech? Like,
just let the guy go.
But I don't know. I think a big criticism Star Wars has heard over the years is that there's no stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, especially Disney Star Wars. They've heard that criticism a lot.
Yeah, and so I think I don't know how those storytellers wouldn't be aware of that criticism. And not that I want Tech dead, but I mean, there is something to be said to when you know, like, there's no everyone surviving. Mm-hmm. It makes all those moments more precious with the characters. So I don't think so.
You'll say it's plausible, but you don't think so. Yeah, it's feasible.
Yeah, it's feasible, especially if it's a you don't want it to happen either. Yeah, you know, and it's just like, yeah, like for what? To make fans less sad? I don't think that's for good storytelling.
Only to make like, yeah, Echo didn't die, but like he spent all those years as a robot now.
Yeah, I mean, like he's found purpose. He's traumatized forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. And now my last question for you here. Does Palpatine come back this season? And if he doesn't come back this season, do we see him at all or hear from him at all? And is this the last of Ian McDiarmid?
No. He's so good. They're going to use him as long as they can.
Well, he is 80.
So is Harrison Ford.
I don't think Harrison Ford's doing anything more in Star Wars.
No, but like to say like age is what would stop.
Oh, I'm not saying age would stop. I'm just saying like we don't know how much.
I know, but that's why I'm saying they're going to use him as much as they can. I think. Mm-hmm. I think they're probably like filming small scenes and like getting his voice captured and stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we see him again.
You think he's in season 3 still?
I'm just like, since this is Bad Batch's last season, I'm so interested to hear where they go next into the Dark Times. I don't think the stories within the Dark Times are done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
How does Rex get to be chomping away at that desert?
How is he just Jaws in the desert sand?
Yeah, it's like chasing shark. Like, there's a lot of story there. And I think they know people love these characters. And yeah, I think there's more Dark Time storytelling. And I don't know how you don't bring in Palpatine for that.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I think too that he shows up in season 3 still. I am going out on a limb here, and I hope season 2 of Andor has a little bit of the.
Oh, I forgot there was a second season.
The real.
There's so much Star Wars. I'm like, what are we getting this year, and when, and who?
I think just this year it will be obviously Bad Batch will conclude, and then Acolyte in the summer. That should be it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting as streaming slows down.
Streaming is slowing down.
Oversaturated the market. Andor would be great, especially since we have so much of Mon Mothma.
I would love a Mon Mothma Palpatine just conversation in his office.
Yeah, that would
where she's cool. Really like, I gotta get out of here. Like you just feel the tension on her skin.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm also curious what the next animation show will be.
Who knows?
Yeah, because they're not going to stop.
I hope they don't.
You think they will?
Well, they're doing Young Jedi Adventures. I don't know if they focus more on that.
That's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, and you know it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is. I hope they don't. I love that they do it. I don't know.
If they do, they're dumb. Dumbity dum dum.
I would say it's dumb too, and I think they've built up a great audience for it over the years. And they're certainly with the new films that are coming out, whether it be the Rey New Jedi Order story or the James Mangold going back to the Dawn of the Jedi. I mean, they have literally every year to play with of the known Star Wars universe. So, I mean, there's absolutely a place for it. And I hope just Disney recognizes the importance of that and to keep the tradition going. That's all I can say on that one. I don't have a... I wish I had more of a like a scoop or something like that I've heard someone say like, this show's coming down the
No, I
like
just
I
have a
heard
firm
Bad Batch
faith.
did a couple years ago.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see.
We will see. We will see. Well, we've talked through all 3 episodes. Omega and Crosshair escape. The Empire is obviously not going to let them go too far without trying to track them down. Does the Empire get to them first, or do they reconnect with?
I thought you said that was my last question.
Well, I lied. Does
I don't know, what
Hunter
do you
and
think?
does Hunter and Wrecker? Oh, I gotta think that they get captured again.
Interesting. Okay.
I gotta think that they get captured again. I think they connect, and they know that they're still alive, and they probably say here's a rendezvous spot, and maybe they. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but then they can like track that transmission, and they hear it, and then they go to a place.
I thought they'd go to Sid
and then trap him, or maybe they go to Sid, and yeah, because she doesn't know, or yeah, she does. She was there. I don't think they go to Sid. Omega was there.
Yeah, that's true. I thought they'd go back to like maybe there's a place like they said they'd always rendezvous on the planet.
Maybe it's Pabu.
Oh, well.
Maybe it's Pabu, and then that's sadly where you find out that Pabu gets destroyed.
Don't even.
Well, do you have any other thoughts before we close up shop here?
No, that's it. I'm just excited. I'm excited they're off the base. I'm glad we don't have to just like see them waste away for episodes and episodes and episodes there. So yeah, really excited to see where the story goes.
I am excited too, and I hope that you listeners are excited as well. Thanks to Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations for joining us on these Bad Batch journeys, both this week and in the future.
My pleasure.
You'll be back by popular demand as we continue to discuss each and every week here the new episodes for the Bad Batch. And for you listeners at home, we will be back next week with a brand new episode talking about Bad Batch episode 4, of course. And if you want to continue the conversation with us, we can be found on all the social media sites: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Hive. I think I named them all. Just search for Force Ghost Conversations and you'll find us in some way, shape, or form. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.